Welcome back to the podcast. I have again frequent guest. He's been on many times. Rik Offenberger.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Rik, I usually always have the guest pick the topic. You are a big Jack Kirby fan. What made you into a big Jack Kirby fan?
I liked the Fantastic Four as a kid, and he created the whole Marvel universe. And I had Origins of the Marvel Universe and Sons of Origins of the Marvel Universe and Bring On the Bad Guys, those Fireside books, and it introduced me to the characters. And I picked them up starting in the 70s. So I was about 10 years after the launch. So Spider-Man was a big deal. But Jack Kirby was it for Marvel. I mean, everyone who loves early Marvel, he was on like all the books. He was doing a million books and a million covers, and he created Captain America in the first place. And in the old Golden Age style, the editor would have the writer, talk to them in person, and they would pitch in the office what the plot was to the writer. The writer would then go and write the script. He would hand that off to the artist. He'd never see the artist again and never talk to the artist again, and the artist would draw the comic. Stan had a different system where he gave that exact same plot and pitch to the artist live, and the artist had no script. And so then the artist would then go draw or they had a minimal script, would go draw the book, and then he would do the dialogue afterwards as opposed to doing the dialogue before he saw the art. And this led to some friction with some artists who felt like they should have been the writer since they had to do all the page direction. I don't know if this was an economy of scale because Marvel had less money. Marvel was almost out of business when they launched the superheroes in '63. So I don't know if Martin Goodman wouldn't pay for it. I didn't know, I know their page rates were low. I don't know if this was just something that Stan could do so he could write as many comics as he did with Jack Kirby, or how this all worked out. But I know there was friction with Kirby, there was friction with Ditko, there was friction with Wally Wood over what the credits were. I mean, theoretically, they could have changed the credits and still given them the same pay.
Go on. No, go on.
That Jack Kirby created Captain America with Joe Simon. So Jack Kirby and Captain America, whatever vision he has for Captain America, is the right one.
I'm not one of those people who get into the debates of all that stuff, but I try to give some additional information about stuff, And you're right. Back when, the Marvel stuff started, Martin Goodman, for whatever reason, did not hire extra staff. So, and Stan Lee's like, hey, I got to give somebody a story. They've got to.
Or they stop publishing.
Yeah, and this person needs to pay his bills. So here's a story, and the Marvel method just didn't one day with the snap of the finger just happen. It evolved over time because Martin Goodman, for whatever reason, wouldn't hire any help till Roy Thomas in the late or the mid '60s, and nobody knew that Marvel would be around in 10 years. I mean, geez, just a few years before in '57, but 4 years before Fantastic Four came around, Marvel almost went under. So a lot of these people at the time, and I don't get into the creator hassles because it's like,
I get
it's
that.
A no-win situation. It's a no-win situation.
And people are polarized on both sides, and they're fans of each creator and each person's impact. But it wasn't like Jack Kirby didn't go back and forth between Marvel and DC before. I mean, he created Captain America, then he found out that he was being cheated on his royalties for Captain America in the accounting, and they left and they went to DC and did a whole huge run at DC. And then he came back to Marvel and worked there again, and was doing their pre-superhero stuff before they launched the superhero books. And then he was there, obviously. His drawing is the original drawing of Spider-Man, and we did a whole Spider-Man issue on this. And then, he did the Fantastic Four, and he stays there for 100 issues. And good luck finding other people with a 100-issue run on anything.
Especially,
there are probably a few, but not a lot. And his contributions to the Marvel Universe are huge. And then he felt that he wasn't treated the way he wanted to be treated, and he went to DC. And we should probably at some day do a New God story, podcast. But the difference at DC versus Marvel is that he got to write and draw. And they got Jack to come back for the bicentennial, back to Captain America, back to Marvel, and he got to write Captain America his way. And so that was the part that made this more exciting than things had been before, because once he started writing his own stuff at DC, he never stopped and worked with another writer that I can recall.
How do you think his return to Marvel in the 70s holds up over time, over the volume of work that he did? 'Cause he was only there for like 3-4 years or something.
Well, I mean, you always want to see a creator give voice to their character the way they wanted to see it. I mean, you know, and originally he's working with Joe Simon, and they didn't work where Simon would write and he would draw and Simon would ink. I mean, they all did a little bit of everything, and they worked together as true partners. But still, it's not your full vision for the character. There are compromises made when you're working with someone. And when he's working on Captain America with Stan Lee, Stan clearly had a point of view. Stan clearly directed how the stories would go and what they would be about. And Stan did all the dialogue afterwards, where Cap may be saying things that Jack wished he wasn't. So it's nice to see that, and they did a lot of fanfare for him coming back. Jack is back. You know what I mean? So, and that was before there was any media for comics. There were, you know, I don't even know if there were the trade, out. You know, they don't know that Amazing Heroes has started yet or any of those publications. So they could only do it internally. And, you know, that was, and they gave a big splash to Jack Kirby coming back. And so that was nice for him. The run probably would have been nice if it had been longer, but it's nice that Jack was able to actually do what he wanted. The Bicentennial Treasury book is tremendous.
Yeah, what do you think about the Bicentennial Treasury book? Because that was something very unique. It was done in that Treasury format. It was 84 pages. Jack really had the opportunity to really show off his artwork. What do you think about that? I didn't mean to interrupt you like that, but
no. The Captain America's Bicentennial Battles was tremendous. They had been doing a lot of Treasury books at both DC and Marvel, and they were popular, but you had to send away for them. They were enormous. They were the size of an artboard as opposed to shrunk down to the size of a comic. And so because they were this enormous size, you didn't see them on the newsstand. You know that they so you had to send them $1.25, and they got the full $1.25 on that. And they would mail it to you. You know, they paid them that plus shipping. And so almost all of them were reprint books. You know, Superhero Grab Bag, Superhero Treasury, and DC was doing famous first editions where they were doing the old Golden Age ones. But this was original work in there. And this was nice, and this was different, and this was special for the Bicentennial. And that was tremendous. And Jack was well read. When he did the New Gods, many of the ideas that he came up with out of there actually came out of Scientific American. They came from things that he had read. And while Motherbox seemed crazy at the time, now everyone has an iPhone. You know, I mean, a lot of these things were actually based on other things that he read and other things that he had experienced and other things that he had heard about. And so it was nice that he did this journey through American history. It was nice that it was original. It was nice. I mean, there were just so many cool things about this that make it stand out, even among all the other Treasury editions that Marvel was doing.
And he didn't like gloss over some of the less spectacular moments of our history. He pretty much covered it all and did it in a fair way through, pretty much like the eyes of Captain America. Is that fair to say?
I would say that's fair. I mean, he touched on slavery, which is one of the darkest chapters in American history, and the Civil War and all of that. And he touched on that. And I'm sure that he didn't do it justice for people who are really into that, that time period and the way that was portrayed and how that was important in American history. But considering he had 84 pages, it was nice that he even mentioned it when many people would have whitewashed it to make it all, a huge fluff piece for the Bicentennial.
So what did you think of he did Captain America from 193 to 214. What do you think of that run of Captain America in general?
I loved it. I loved it. His style had become more. I mean, when his stuff in the '40s was very slick and '40s style, and it looked very similar to what other people had done. And in the '60s, his style was a little more Kirby-esque. You could see it and you'd see what, you'd see it and you'd know it was Kirby as opposed to anything else. And it's what made Marvel different than DC. DC tried to look like Neil Adams, and if someone else was drawing it, they tried to draw like Neil Adams. At Marvel, people tried to draw like Kirby. But Kirby put so much energy into his pages. Kirby put so much into his page layouts. So many little details, so many circles and lines and all sorts of things that were just crazy. And you'd look at it and you'd say, oh, that's just amazing. And when he cuts to Captain America, he's a little more stylized too. And it's sort of like Frank Miller, who starts off with the nicest line art you've ever seen in Daredevil. And as he's doing, the Dark Knight, it's getting more and more, stylized. And then you see the Sin City stuff and it's very stylized. And you look at that and you know that it's Frank Miller. No one questions it. Jack Kirby's style did the same thing, where his style had changed over time. And by the time he came back to Captain America and he was doing the New God stuff, it was a little different than it had been before at Marvel. But I think that it was uniquely Jack. You could see it. You could feel the power. You knew he loved the character. You felt his love for the character in the stories. And the stories were wild and crazy. And that was what he was doing. I mean, you look at any of the stuff that he's written himself, and it was all big concept stuff. It was all different stuff. It wasn't really... Cap battles the Red Skull, although that does happen too. You know what I mean? But it wasn't just villain of the month flavor and just a slugfest and they're done. It's not the Hulk battles the thing and that, we do this for 20 pages. I mean, he had a lot to say.
Yeah, he did the Mad Bomb storyline from issue 193 through 200. He had Cap answering to Henry Kissinger. He had a lot of sci-fi, psychedelic stuff in there. He had a Cap and Falcon, and he had a really good mixed bag. But when you saw those pages and when you saw those battle scenes, they were very intense and vibrant, really stand-in-your-face battle scenes. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. No, Kirby did fight scenes better than anyone else. I don't know how much fighting Kirby did in his own life, but he certainly knew how to do it in the comics. He certainly knew how to throw the big haymaker. He certainly knew how to show the action as the character. I mean, everything that Kirby did was different. And it was different than what DC did too, because DC liked to show you the before action and the after action. You know what I mean? So you'd see what was going to happen and then you'd see the result. Whereas Marvel showed you the actual action. And it was different, and that's what made Marvel Comics popular, and it's what gave Marvel a different flavor, and ultimately had Marvel past DC, is that people responded to that, and it's really all about his pacing and page layouts and style, and he was a master. The fact that he created the Falcon, that he brought back the Falcon, that it's Captain America and the Falcon, that was all fun. As a kid, I'm thinking, well, why isn't it Bucky? Why isn't it Cap and Bucky? I'd like to see Bucky back, but they killed off Bucky. Then he got better. But bringing in Henry Kissinger was interesting because every comic you ever got from Marvel from the start till now says and indicates no person living or dead, and yet clearly.
Do you think?
And of course, in the '70s, psychedelics were a big issue. They're still around today, but they're different. And, and because it was a big issue and a big issue in society, he's putting this in a story for kids. And it's an interesting concept that because literally in the 70s, the comics think that the kids are cycling out in junior high. They think they pick them up in grade school, cycle them out. They didn't see that. Oh, no. Those kids will keep going forever, and those will be your core audience, and they'll never leave.
He seemed like he was writing to more of an adult audience during that Captain America run. Is that fair to say?
I would say that all of his stuff that he wrote himself was written to an older audience. If you ever liked those classic Looney Tune cartoons, The animators wrote them for themselves, that made themselves laugh, and it was incidental that kids liked them. And I always felt like Kirby kind of wrote that way too, that he used a lot of big concepts and high concepts and things that may have gone over the head of the reader the first time they read it. But then as they got older, you could read it again and see, oh, there's more to the story. And oh, that's why his stuff is still out there. Almost everything Kirby did is available in a trade paperback somewhere, and you can get it digitally somewhere. And I'm sure you have.
Do you think Marvel treated him as well as he could have or should have been treated during his second run in the 70s?
I don't know that Marvel ever treated him right. I mean, no offense to anyone, but I think that when they put the losses of the other books in Captain America, didn't pay him his royalties in the Golden Age, that wasn't treating him right. I think when they didn't give him the credits, they couldn't work out a deal where they gave him credits that he felt he deserved. That wasn't money. I mean, Stan's issue with the artist was never about money. It was about credits because there was no more money to give anyone. And so then he wasn't treated fairly and he left for DC. When he got to DC, I don't think they treated him fairly there either because they're redrawing his Superman faces. Why would you hire the king of comics and not let him draw Superman? That was all ego. And then he comes back to Marvel after his books are canceled when they're building an audience. And so I think that his run was too short at Marvel. So I don't know that they ever treated him well. I think everyone appreciated him. I think that everywhere he went, it was a big deal when he got there. And I think the fans absolutely loved him. But I don't think the publishers treated him well. And I think that part of that is because he knew what he brought to the table. He knew his worth. And so when they want him, he knew what he needed. He knew what he wanted. He knew what his value was. And they all agreed to that when they started. But I think once they got them there, the way comics work, they didn't treat him well enough,
So what advice would you give? Because you and I know Kirby. We could talk about Kirby all day. What advice would you give to somebody that's kind of new to comic books and is going to go pick up this Bronze Age of Jack Kirby from the 1970s, which doesn't look, read, feel, or anything like maybe they get at the comic book shop today?
Well, I think that you have to read comics in their time period, the way they were created for the people at that point. And I think that if you pick that up, you'd be shocked at how well this holds up. I think that this works well as a standalone read, and you don't have to have read the issues before, and you don't have to read the issues after. That this puts together a nice run of comics, and it's a finite run. So I think that this gives you an experience of what did Captain America look like to Jack Kirby, who created him. And it is an exact perfect representation of how Captain America should be treated because this is what his creator wanted.
Rik Offenberger talking to me about the Captain America run by Jack Kirby in the 1970s. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you.